Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma is a seminal work that explores the profound and lasting effects of trauma on the human psyche and physiology. Drawing from decades of clinical practice and scientific research, van der Kolk argues that trauma is not merely an event that is remembered but an experience that becomes imprinted on the body, brain, and nervous system, fundamentally reorganizing how survivors perceive and interact with the world. The book is a journey through the evolution of understanding trauma, from its early recognition in combat veterans to its broader application to survivors of abuse, neglect, and other overwhelming experiences. Part 1: The Rediscovery of Trauma. The book opens with van der Kolk's early career at a Boston Veterans Administration clinic in the late 1970s, where he encountered Vietnam veterans suffering from what would later be formally diagnosed as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. These men were haunted by nightmares, flashbacks, and an inability to connect with their loved ones. They were stuck in the past, their lives defined by the horrors they had endured. This experience set van der Kolk on a lifelong quest to understand the mysteries of trauma. He found that traditional psychiatric approaches, which focused on medication and talk therapy, were often inadequate for these veterans. The trauma was not just in their minds, it was held in their bodies. Their physiological alarm systems were permanently set to high alert, leading to chronic hyperarousal, irritability, and a host of physical ailments. Through his work, van der Kolk realized that the core of trauma lies in the speechless horror, the inability to articulate the overwhelming experience, which then becomes stored in nonverbal parts of the brain and body. This understanding was a crucial step in recognizing that healing from trauma required more than just talking about it. Part 2: This is Your Brain on Trauma. Van der Kolk delves into the neuroscience of trauma, explaining how overwhelming experiences alter the brain's structure and function. He introduces the concept of the triune brain, consisting of the reptilian brain, responsible for basic survival functions, the limbic system, the emotional brain, and the neocortex, the rational, thinking brain. Trauma disrupts the delicate balance between these systems. When faced with a threat, the amygdala, the brain's smoke detector, sounds the alarm, triggering the fight-or-flight response. In traumatized individuals, this system becomes hypersensitive, misinterpreting safe situations as dangerous. Meanwhile, Broca's area, a speech center in the brain, can shut down during a flashback, making it impossible to put the experience into words. Brain imaging studies of trauma survivors reveal this pattern of heightened amygdala activity and reduced activation in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's watchtower responsible for rational thought and impulse control. This neural disorganization explains many of the symptoms of PTSD, the timeless reliving of the trauma, the intense emotional and physical reactions to triggers, and the feeling of being disconnected from oneself and the world. The body continues to defend against a threat that is long past, trapping the survivor in a state of perpetual fear and arousal. Part 3: The Minds of Children. This section explores the devastating impact of childhood abuse and neglect. Van der Kolk emphasizes the critical role of attachment in early development. Secure attachment to a caregiver provides a buffer against stress and lays the foundation for emotional regulation and healthy relationships. However, when the source of comfort is also the source of terror, as in cases of abuse by a parent, the child's developing brain is thrown into chaos. Children adapt to abusive environments in various ways, often developing insecure or disorganized attachment styles. They may become hypervigilant to signs of danger, misinterpreting neutral facial expressions as threatening. They may learn to dissociate, to mentally escape from their bodies to endure the unbearable. These coping mechanisms, while necessary for survival in a toxic environment, have long-term consequences, leading to problems with self-regulation, attention, and interpersonal relationships. The ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, study, which van der Kolk discusses, provides powerful evidence of the link between childhood trauma and a wide range of adult health problems, from alcoholism and drug addiction to heart disease and cancer. This underscores the urgent need for a developmental trauma disorder diagnosis, which would more accurately capture the complex and pervasive effects of chronic childhood maltreatment. Part 4: The Imprint of Trauma. Van der Kolk examines the nature of traumatic memory, which differs significantly from ordinary memory. Traumatic memories are not stored as coherent narratives but as fragmented sensory and emotional imprints, images, sounds, smells, and physical sensations. These fragments can be triggered by reminders of the trauma, leading to flashbacks in which the survivor relives the event as if it were happening in the present. The book discusses the historical controversy surrounding repressed memories, particularly in cases of childhood sexual abuse. While acknowledging the potential for false memories, van der Kolk presents compelling evidence that amnesia for traumatic events is a real and common phenomenon. The mind's attempt to wall off the overwhelming experience can lead to a dual memory system, where the trauma exists outside the realm of ordinary autobiographical memory. Healing from this kind of memory requires more than simply recounting the story. It involves integrating the fragmented pieces of the trauma into a coherent narrative, transforming them from a terrifying present-day reality into a memory of something that happened in the past. Part 5: Paths to Recovery. The final section of the book is a hopeful exploration of various therapeutic approaches that can help trauma survivors heal. Van der Kolk emphasizes that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment. Different methods may be effective for different individuals at different stages of their recovery. The overarching goal is to help survivors regain a sense of ownership over their bodies and their lives. He discusses top-down approaches, such as talk therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which engage the rational brain to help survivors understand and reframe their experiences. However, he also highlights the limitations of these methods, particularly when the emotional brain is in a state of high alert. Therefore, he champions bottom-up approaches that directly target the body and its sensations. These include yoga and mindfulness. These practices help survivors reconnect with their bodies, regulate their breathing and heart rate, and develop a sense of inner calm and safety. By learning to tolerate and befriend their physical sensations, they can begin to release the tyranny of the past. EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This technique uses bilateral stimulation, such as eye movements, to help the brain process and integrate traumatic memories. Van der Kolk describes it as a way to loosen up the mind, allowing for the creation of new associations and a more coherent understanding of the past. Neurofeedback. This therapy uses real-time displays of brainwave activity to teach individuals how to regulate their own brain function. By stabilizing the brain and increasing its resilience, neurofeedback can help reduce hyperarousal, improve focus, and enhance emotional control. Theater and communal rhythms. Van der Kolk explores the therapeutic power of communal activities like theater, singing, and dancing. These experiences foster a sense of connection, agency, and shared purpose, which can be profoundly healing for individuals who have felt isolated and powerless. Internal family systems. IFS. This model of therapy views the mind as a collection of parts, each with its own beliefs and agendas. Trauma can cause these parts to become polarized and conflicted. IFS helps individuals cultivate a sense of self, a core of compassion and wisdom that can lead and heal the various parts. Conclusion: a call for a trauma-informed society. The Body Keeps the Score is more than just a clinical textbook. It is a passionate call for a more compassionate and trauma-informed society. Van der Kolk argues that we must move beyond a narrow focus on individual pathology and recognize the social and environmental factors that contribute to trauma. He advocates for early intervention programs for at-risk children and families, and for the integration of body-based therapies into mainstream mental health care. Ultimately, the book offers a message of hope. While trauma can have devastating effects, healing is possible. By understanding the intricate connections between brain, mind, and body, and by embracing a holistic approach to treatment, we can help survivors reclaim their lives and find their way back to a sense of wholeness and vitality.